So now we get into the curriculum portion. I know that this is something that I get asked a lot. Well, what curriculum do you use? And I ask people too, what curriculum do you use? I love learning from others as well. So when we have our table time, we start with that written work. And I always like to start off with our core subjects. So math, grammar, and spelling. Now for us, we use a curriculum called Abeka currently. That might change over the years, but I really like the way that it's set up, and it works well, especially for us when we travel and they're able to do the worksheets in the car, on the plane, in the train, as we're going, as we do travel a lot. So that works well for us. You might find a different curriculum, but I like to start off, especially with math and then grammar and then spelling, and get those core subjects finished. And we do those in English, but I may do some things every once in a while in Spanish, like let's count to 100 by tens in Spanish. And so we'll do things like that. We might spell a word in Spanish. We'll make sure that, we know what a noun is in Spanish. So things like that I'll sprinkle in throughout the year, but those three we mainly do in English. And then we do handwriting and typing, and depending on where we are at in the morning, sometimes we do that before lunch, sometimes after lunch. And this I'll do in Spanish. We'll also do in English, so this is bilingual. I'll have some phrases that they have to copy and write in manuscript, in cursive, type, and then we'll talk about what they mean. So handwriting and typing are two things that we definitely do in both languages. And let's see, we also have an opportunity for them to be able to share what they want to learn about. So we want to make sure that it's not just me teaching what I think they should learn, but also to make sure that they have a love for learning, a curiosity for learning. So I want them to share with me, what do you want to learn about? And then we learn about that. And a lot of times, currently, it's about animals. And so we'll learn about animals, and we'll do this. We usually do this in English because that's their preferred language. So we'll learn about animals through YouTube videos, research in the library, books, documentaries, you name it. And like I said, that'll mostly be in English, but we will sprinkle in some Spanish in there. But I really want them to be able to express themselves in the language that they want to, and to be able to learn the way that they want to. And so that usually falls back on English, and that's okay. And also, let me take that opportunity to say that I always want my kids to feel comfortable to be able to share with me openly about anything, and not to feel like, oh, I have to say this in Spanish, or I don't know how to say this in Spanish, or I don't want to say this in Spanish. So I make sure that they know that they can share with me whatever they want, however they want. So if that's English, great. I'm not going to shame them for that or tell them, no, you have to say it in Spanish. I want them to be able to share and not feel like they have to hold back. So that's just a little side note. Back to the curriculum. I also make sure that they have an opportunity to write in a gratitude journal. So that's part of their bin that they have that I showed you earlier. They take out their gratitude journal, they write in what they're thankful for. They also do a language learning app. We're currently doing Duolingo, and this is just a fun kind of gaming app for Spanish to have them work on their vocabulary and just keep that going. And then we do reading time. And this usually does take place after lunch. So after lunch, we kind of wind down, we're done with our core subjects. And this is when we start doing more like the gratitude, the Duolingo, the reading, handwriting and typing, depends on when they've done that. And definitely when we do what they want to learn. Because like I said, that could be like a video or something, or maybe a field trip. So that'll be something that'll happen in the afternoon. And when we read in English and we read in Spanish. So they each have 2 books that they have to read. And my 10-year-old does independent reading. She reads her English book, her Spanish book, and then we talk about it, make sure that she comprehended what she read. I ask her questions. My 8-year-old, I read with her to make sure that she's able to, in Spanish, pronounce the words phonetically, read the sentences, understand what she's reading, and then also make sure that she does her English book and reads that out loud to me. So extras that we have throughout the week, what I just told you are dailies that we do every single day, but extra work that we'll do throughout the week is we might have a book report one week. You finished a book, you do a book report or a book presentation. We might have a science project, a science experiment for that quarter, so you're working on that this week. And there might just be a generalized presentation. Maybe you're trying to persuade us to, I don't know, get you something, or you want a puppy or whatever that, I mean, you have to do a presentation on it. So things like that. And listening skills, we'll work on an activity. My kids love the listening skills activity. And I have a manual that we use for this. And if you haven't seen it yet, you can see it there in the links. And this is a great manual that has a bunch of activities that are practical activities to help our kids become value-driven adults, to help them in the real world. We'll do 1 week, we'll talk about budgeting. The next week we talk about how to handle conflict. All sorts of different things in this manual. So many activities that you can just tear out and use at your pace whenever you want throughout the school year. So those are some of the things that we'll do and work on throughout the week. And it might be different from 1 week to the next. We might do problem solving, critical thinking 1 week. The next week we're working on making a grocery list, having a budget at the grocery store, and then learning how to cook together. So different things like that. And it's just a great way to make sure that what we're teaching our kids is something that they're going to use in the real world. And that's the beauty of homeschooling, is that we can choose that. And we can also model that for them as well. So that's pretty much what our day looks like, what our week looks like.